Greetings, math fans. All right, so this is day 3 notes, and basically what we're going to do here is we're going to look at graphs of functions and look at graphs of derivatives. And if you, what I have on the top of the sheet here, it says, remember, f prime of x represents the equation for the slope of the original function, f of x. Okay, so it's important. F prime represents the equation for the slope. So let's basically the first two questions I'm going to give you guys, you're going to be given the graph of f of x. And I want you to construct the slope graph. All right. So these are pretty simple. Next year you're going to get some more complicated ones, but I want you to at least have a little, a little understanding of what's going on here with the derivative and the slope. All right. So let's take a look at these graphs. Given the graph, so again, that top graph is your f graph, and the bottom is your f prime, or your slope. So let's write this out here. This is the slope graph. So what you want to do is at x equals 0, because that's what we're looking at. These are this derivative graph. If I look at my y-axis is the slope. Okay, the y-axis is the slope. The x-axis is the actual value of x. So x is the same for both graphs. But for the f of x graph, the y value is actually the y value, like normal, and in the derivative graph, the y value is the slope. So I'm going to make this, we're going to make this in red, the graph, just so you can see a little bit easier. All right, between 0 and 1, so let's actually label this real quickly here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is 1, 2, and negative 1, negative 2. So let's do this also. Okay. Between 0 and 1, what's the slope? Well, you just count it. You look at it, right? Rise over run. So isn't the slope 1? So from 0, x equals 0, to x equals 1. I was going to do this in red. Let's do that. My slope is 1. And you're like, Mr. Curvis, why are you putting open dots there? Because the slope changes. Like, first of all, we don't know what's going on at 0. You'll learn more about that next year. But I think 1 is, at x equals 1, what is the slope there? Is the slope going up or is it going down? Well, isn't it right in the middle? I don't know what the slope is. That's why it's an open circle, because you don't know what that is. Okay? All right, so what about between 1 and 2? What's the slope? Well, isn't it down 2 over 1? So isn't it negative 2? So from 1 to 2, the slope is negative 2. What about from 2 to 3? Isn't it a 0 slope? Pretty easy, isn't it? You're just looking at the slope of that line. From 3 to 4, isn't the slope up 1 over 1? So isn't the slope 1? And from 4 to 5, the slope is negative 2. From 5 to 6, is a 0 slope. From 6 to 7, the slope is positive 1. Slope from 7 to 8, slope is 0. Now again, this is linear. All these functions are in this f of x. It's all linear. Next year, you're going to see some more complicated stuff. I'll probably talk a little bit more about this in class, some a little more complicated problems. Not covered on a quiz or test or anything, but definitely much more complicated than this. But just to get a basic understanding, this is what I want you guys to know. Okay, then from 8 to 9, isn't the slope up 2 over 1? So slope is 2. And then it's from 9 to 10, it's negative 2. That's what your slope graph looks like. Okay? Nice little kind of just a step graph, right? Okay. Let's, just more practice here real quickly. This is pretty fast here. Made the axis a little bit bigger. Okay, so I label this again. This is 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2. Okay. So this is all labeled, and let's go. From 0 to 1, what's the slope? Okay, don't look at -2, look at the slope. The slope is 0. Okay, from 1 to 2, it's up 3 over 1. Slope is 3. Okay, from 2 to 3, slope it's down 1, so it's -1. From 3 to 4, it's up 2 over 1, so its slope is 2. From 4 to 5, it's down 3 over 1, so it's -3. From 5 to 6, it's up 1 over 1, so it's 1. From 6 to 7, it's -1. From 7 to 8, it's up 3 over 1, so it's back up to 3. From 8 to 9, it's -2. From 9 to 10, it's -1. There you go. That's your graph. Okay? That's actually pretty easy. And again, it gets more complicated with when you have quadratics and all kinds of different functions here. Let's take a look at the next one. Given the graph of f prime of x. Now, this is where it's a little tricky. I'm giving you the slope graph. Construct an f of x graph. Okay? Giving you the slope graph. Construct the f of x graph. All right. So one of the questions that students always ask is, well, where do you start? I don't know where you start. You could actually start anywhere because it's just giving you slope. It's not telling you starting position. Okay? So just for the heck of it, I'm going to start at 0, 0 because I want to. All right. So do you guys agree? Let's actually label this again here. Okay. So I start at 0 and my slope is 1. So I go up 1. I'll do it in red here again. Okay, I put a dot there. There's not really a dot. It's just so I can plot it easier, right? Do you guys agree the slope is 1? So what about between 1 and 2? What's the slope? It's -1. So from that point, I go down 1 over 1. I put a point here. Okay, from 2 to 3, what's the slope? It's 2, so it means I go up 2 over 1. It's supposed to be a straight line, kind of. Okay, what about from 3 to 4? Isn't it slope -1? So down 1 over 1, so I'm going right to here. And then from 4 to 5, the slope is -2. So at that point, I go down 2, 1, 2, and over 1. And then from 5 to 6, the slope is 1, so I go up 1 over 1. From 6 to 7, the slope is 0. So I just go straight across. 7 to 8, the slope is 1. So up 1 over 1, it's +1. Slope from 8 to 9 is 2, right? So this is going to go a little bit off the graph, but it's up 2 over 1. Okay, and then from 9 to 10, it's -2. So it goes down 2 and over 1. So we're over here. Okay, looks pretty reasonable. But these are all, by the way, these are all straight lines here. These are all straight line segments. Again, this guy was a little bit off the chart here, but that's okay. All right, so not bad. Again, it's probably more challenging when you actually have different types of slopes. You know, you have quadratics and rational functions, etc. Okay, let's do one more here. Let's label this again. It's always a good thing. All right, so from 0 to 1, what's the slope? Slope is 0. So if I start here, I'm going to go straight across, only because the slope is 0. And between 1 and 2, the slope is 1, so up 1 over 1. Between 2 and 3, the slope is 2, so up 2 over 1. So that slope kind of changed there? And then from 3 to 4, the slope is -1, so down 1 over 1. And then from 4 to 5, the slope is 0. And from 5 to 6, it's -1, down 1 over 1. From 6 to 7, it's -2, so it's down 2 over 1. From 7 to 8, it's -1, so I'm still going down. I'm at -1, so I go down to -2. And from 8 to 10, the slope is 1. Do you guys agree with that? So it's up 1 over 1, and then up 1 over 1. So it's a consistent slope here. And that's what your graph somewhat looks like. Okay? Again, pretty quick lesson, but just giving you a general idea of what some of these graphs look like. And just remember which graph you're looking at. It's going to be very specific at telling you which graph you're starting out with, if you're starting out with the F prime or the F graph, because it's really important. If you guess the wrong one and you start creating the wrong graph, it's completely wrong. Okay, so make sure you're good to go what graph you're looking for and what graph you're given. All right, that's it, math fans. Adios. Goodbye.